My people, gather round and let me tell you a story that happened in our village many years ago. It is a story that teaches us about the importance of family and the dangers of neglecting our children. Sit down, be comfortable, and listen to what I have to tell you. In our village, there lived a man called Obiora and his wife Adanna. These two loved each other very much. When they first married, people in the village would point at them and say, "See how these two move like one person." They were always together, always laughing, always planning their future. After their wedding, they prayed to God every day for a child. They went to church, they consulted our village elders, and they never lost hope. Then one day, Adanna's stomach began to grow. The whole village rejoiced. When the baby came, it was a boy, and they named him Benjamin. The celebration that followed was something to behold. People came from neighboring villages to share in their joy. There was plenty of pounded yam, egusi soup, and palm wine flowing like the village river. Benjamin grew into a strong boy. By the time he was 10 years old, he was tall for his age and had bright eyes that showed his intelligence. It was around this time that good fortune smiled on his parents again. Obiora and Adanna had saved enough money to build their dream house near the village river. The house was beautiful, with strong walls painted in bright colors and a zinc roof that shone in the sun. The day they opened their new house, the whole village gathered again to celebrate. The women cooked jollof rice, pepper soup, and brought fresh fish from the market. The men brought palm wine and cola nuts. Children played in the compound while the adults ate and danced. But my people, this is where our story takes a turn that will teach us an important lesson. You see, after moving into their new house, something changed in Obiora and Adanna. The success they had tasted made them hungry for more. Adanna would wake up very early, before the first cock would crow, to go to the village market where she sold foodstuffs. Her stall grew bigger and bigger, and soon people from far away would come to buy from her. Obiora, too, became busy with his woodcraft business. He was skilled at making chairs, tables, and doors that were so beautiful that even the local chief ordered from him. He would spend all day in his workshop, cutting and carving wood, making more and more furniture to sell. Their business grew, but something else was growing too, a distance between them and their son Benjamin. In the morning, when Benjamin woke up, his parents were already gone. At night, when they returned home, tired from their day's work, Benjamin would be sleeping. The only person who had time for him was their housemaid, Kayamika. One evening, Benjamin waited up for his father. He had learned an interesting story at the village square that day and wanted to share it. When Obiora finally came home, Benjamin ran to him excitedly. "Papa! Papa! Let me tell you about the story I heard today at the village square." Obiora patted his son's head and smiled tiredly. "My son, not now. I am very tired. I will listen to your story another time." Disappointed but still hopeful, Benjamin ran to his mother, who was just coming in from the market. "Mama, can I tell you the story?" Adanna yawned and called to Kayamika. "Take Benjamin to bed. It's late, and he should be sleeping. Tomorrow, my son. Tomorrow I will listen to your story." But tomorrow never came. The next morning, Benjamin woke up early to find his parents, but they were already gone. This became the pattern of his life. Each day, he would wake up to an empty house with only Kayamika for company. To ease his loneliness, Benjamin started spending time at the river near their house. He would sit on the banks, throwing pebbles into the water and watching the ripples spread. Sometimes he would talk to himself, telling the stories that his parents were too busy to hear. What Benjamin didn't know was that someone was watching him. Deep in the river lived a beautiful mermaid with long flowing hair decorated with cowrie shells and eyes that sparkled like morning dew. For many days, she had observed this lonely boy who came to sit by her river. She saw how his parents left him alone, too busy chasing money to see their son's sadness. One sunny afternoon, while Benjamin sat at his usual spot by the river, something extraordinary happened. The water began to ripple, and slowly, a beautiful face emerged from the river. Benjamin was startled but not afraid. The mermaid's smile was kind, and her voice was as soft as the evening breeze. "Hello, Benjamin," she said, her voice musical like the sound of water flowing over rocks. Benjamin's eyes widened. "You know my name?" The mermaid laughed softly. "I have watched you for many days. You come here alone, always looking sad. Why don't you tell me one of your stories?" And so began a friendship between Benjamin and the mermaid. Every day, he would rush to the river after breakfast, and she would be there waiting for him. She told him wonderful stories about life under the water, about fish that glowed in the dark, and about underwater palaces made of coral and pearl. One evening, Benjamin tried once again to tell his parents about his new friend. "Mama, Papa, today I met a mermaid in the river. She's beautiful and kind, and she listens to all my stories." His father barely looked up from his account books. "Benjamin, stop this nonsense. There are no mermaids. It's just your imagination." His mother was counting the day's earnings. "Go to bed, Benjamin. You're too old for such fantasy stories." That night, Benjamin cried himself to sleep. The next day, when he met the mermaid, his eyes were still red from crying. "What troubles you, my friend?" the mermaid asked gently. "Is it true that all parents are too busy for their children?" Benjamin asked, his voice trembling. The mermaid's eyes filled with sadness. "No, dear one. Parents should always have time for their children. Would you like to see where I live? Under the water, there are many children like you, and we all take care of each other." Benjamin's eyes lit up. "Can I really go with you?" "Yes," the mermaid said, extending her hand. "Come, let me show you a world where you will never feel lonely." Without hesitation, Benjamin took her hand. The water parted before them like a curtain, and they descended into the depths of the river. What Benjamin saw took his breath away. The underwater world was more beautiful than anything he had imagined. There were houses made of shimmering shells, gardens of swaying sea plants in all colors of the rainbow, and other children swimming and playing, their laughter bubbling up through the water like silver pearls. Meanwhile, back at home, night fell, and for the first time in years, both Obiora and Adanna came home early. They had planned to take Benjamin to the nearby town to buy him new clothes. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Kayamaka," Adanna called. "Where is Benjamin?" The housemaid wrung her hands nervously. "He went to the river to play, as he does every day. But he hasn't returned." Panic gripped the parents' hearts. They ran to the river, calling Benjamin's name. They searched the entire village, but their son was nowhere to be found. News spread quickly, and soon the whole village joined in the search. Days passed, and still no sign of Benjamin. Obiora and Adanna stopped going to their businesses. The market stall remained closed, and dust gathered on the wooden furniture in the workshop. They spent their days by the river, calling their son's name until their voices grew hoarse. "This is our fault," Adanna wept. We were too busy making money to see our son slipping away. Obiora held his wife as she cried. We forgot what was truly important. What good is all this money if we don't have our son? Under the water, Benjamin was having the time of his life. The mermaid who had brought him treated him like her own son. She braided his hair with tiny shells, taught him how to speak to fish, and showed him the secret gardens where sea flowers bloomed. Other merchildren became his friends, and for the first time in years, he felt truly happy. But the mermaid had a wise and kind heart. After 5 days, she sat Benjamin down for a talk. My dear child, she said, your parents are suffering. They have learned their lesson. Sometimes parents forget what's important, but that doesn't mean they don't love their children. Benjamin thought about his parents. Despite everything, he missed them. But what if they go back to being too busy for me? The mermaid smiled. They won't. Sometimes people need to lose something precious to understand its true value. Your parents have learned this lesson the hard way. Finally, Benjamin agreed to return. The mermaid led him to the surface, and as they approached the riverbank, they heard voices. The entire village had gathered there, praying for Benjamin's return. When Benjamin emerged from the water, there was a collective gasp. His father was the first to reach him, scooping him up in his arms with a cry of joy. His mother ran to them, wrapping her arms around both of them, her tears flowing freely. Then, to everyone's amazement, the mermaid rose from the water. Her beauty was so great that the villagers fell silent in awe. People of the village, her voice rang out clear and strong, listen well. Children are not possessions to be neglected while you chase wealth. They are precious gifts that need love, attention, and time. Benjamin came to me because he was lonely, but his heart belongs here, with his family. Remember this lesson well. With these words, she smiled at Benjamin one last time and disappeared beneath the waves. From that day forward, Obiora and Adanna changed completely. They still worked at their businesses, but they made sure to spend time with Benjamin every day. They listened to his stories, played with him, and showed him the love and attention he had always craved. The following year, God blessed them with another child, a baby girl they named Chioma. Benjamin became a loving big brother, and their family grew stronger in love each day. The house by the river became filled with laughter and joy, as it should have been from the beginning. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, if you looked carefully, you might see a beautiful face in the river, smiling at the happy family in the house on the bank. My people, that is the end of my story. What does it teach us? That no amount of money can replace the love and attention children need from their parents. That sometimes it takes losing something precious to understand its true value. And that even in our busy lives, we must never forget what truly matters: family. As we say in our village, a child is like a delicate flower, it needs constant care, love, and attention to bloom. If you neglect it while chasing other things, you might one day find that your flower has been picked by someone else who will give it the care it deserves. And that, my friends, is why they say, a child's heart is like a clean slate, what you write on it is what you will read in the future. Let us learn from Obiora and Adanna's mistake, so we don't need a mermaid to teach us the importance of family. The end. Today's story moral. In our fast-paced world of endless pursuits, we often forget that our greatest treasure sits right at our dinner table. The story of Benjamin, Obiora, and Adanna reminds us that no amount of wealth can fill the void of parental love and attention in a child's heart. While providing for our families is important, We must never become so busy chasing success that we leave our children chasing shadows by the riverbank. Remember, a child's greatest inheritance isn't money in the bank, but memories of love, time spent together, and stories shared. Don't wait for a mermaid to teach you what truly matters. If you enjoyed this traditional African folktale, follow me for more heartwarming stories that carry wisdom from our ancestors. Each tale carries precious lessons that have been passed down through generations, teaching us about love, family, and the values that truly matter in life. Share this story with a parent or friend who might need this gentle reminder today. Sometimes the busiest people need to hear this message the most. Folded hands, medium dark skin tone. Drop a love emoji if this story touched your heart, and stay tuned for more enchanting tales from the motherland.